Talk to us about the tax to start off with, the tax bill that we did manage to see a vote on from the Senate over the weekend, though Donald Trump threw a little bit of a spanner into the works, a wrench.
A monkey wrench, yeah.
Monkey wrench. Talking about a 22% corporate tax rate rather than the 20% that most of us, I think, believe they'd settled on now. So tell us more.
That's right. The president is open to negotiation on the corporate tax rate. He had originally said that was a red line, that he originally wanted 15%. When they got to 20%, he said that that was as far up as he could go. Now he's looking at maybe 22%, the idea that they could use some of that money, about $200 billion extra dollars, plug it into making it maybe a more middle-class focused tax cut, not so much focus on the corporations and the wealthy.
When you say he's looking at, who else is looking at this?
It's really hard to know what's on the president's mind. A lot of times he just says things that haven't been thoroughly vetted or are very different from what other people within his administration are saying.
Yes.
So it may be something the president picked up on and decided that he wanted to float it out there as a trial balloon, and maybe they'll end up at 20% instead of this 22% number that he was looking at. But it's hard to tell whether or not the president is looking at this as a serious policy idea or just sort of floating things out there and seeing what
the reaction is.
So this suggests that there's a lot more negotiation to go in this tax bill, and it's not going to be something where the House just simply adopts what the Senate passed.
Yeah, if you listen to House Speaker Paul Ryan, he has pushed for this conference committee because he wants to have some negotiating power, not necessarily just taking what the Senate passed, but looking at ways to incorporate some of the House's ideas. They're going to have to merge these various different plans together and make sure that both sides are okay with it. On the House, you have a little bit of a bigger margin. You have about 18 people that you can lose before the vote goes down, whereas on the Senate, you can only lose 2 Republicans. But the House has some ideas that they want to make sure they get in. They have said that the 22%, several members of them have said anything above 20% is a non-starter for them. So there's going to be some negotiation, but I think there's a lot of confidence that this is going to eventually pass before the end of the year.
Okay, so aside from the 22% or 20%, what else is the House looking to insert to make sure it puts its stamp on that bill?
There are a couple different things. In the Senate, you have these various individual tax breaks that are going to expire after 7 or 8 years. The House has them going all the way through for eternity. So permanent within the 10-year window, permanent, but definitely not an expiration date. That's something they may fight for. The estate tax in the House, it's completely repealed. The Senate keeps part of it. The alternative minimum tax, the Senate recently changed it to keep some of that, while the House repealed it entirely. So there are some areas of the bill that are much more conservative on the House side because they have that bigger majority, and they're going to be fighting to make it as conservative as possible.
What about shutdown potential?
Yes.
Obviously, we've got to finance the government beyond December 8th, and that's looking like it'll be a 2-part. December 8th taking us to December 22nd and then beyond. Some voices are saying, hey, we don't want to do that without some degree of knowledge about what that Dec 22 spending bill effectively is going to contain. Yeah,
right now their strategy is to try to figure out how to just get to the end of the year, just to get to Christmas with maybe a 2-year spending or a 2-week spending deal. Maybe another short-term deal to get them into January, because they have so many things on their plate, including this tax bill that they're trying to complete before December 25th, before Christmas. And I think they just want to get through this process with these short-term extensions before they really have that knockdown, drag-out fight with the Democrats to decide what the true spending levels are going to be for the rest of the year. But right now, they're really just trying to negotiate and just to get to the end of the year so they can have a real negotiation.